Hello and welcome to another episode of All In Football. I am joined today by Alex Rex and Scott Williams. We're still without Cully, who's gone off to the cricket and left us again. Shocking performance.
Was he in the Caribbean, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Cricket over football, I think, for him. Anyway, moving on, we've got a good discussion today. We're going to go through all the usual bits, and we've got our main talking points around the Premier League. Alex is going to run us through his fantasy football breakdown. He's also got his own podcast, which he does in a bit more detail. So please don't forget to listen to that one as well if you're into your fantasy football. And Scott's going to answer some questions for us on everything below the Premier League and give us a breakdown of how those different leagues are going. So I'm going to crack straight on and go into our first talking point today, which is Spurs. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion on how Spurs have started the season, because they're getting a lot of credit. Everyone I'm listening to is saying, "Oh, Spurs doing brilliantly, wonderful." They've had two 1-0 wins, both of which they were playing extremely defensively, and probably got quite lucky to not concede goals in either of those games. So I guess the first questions is have they actually started well, or have they just got a bit lucky with those first two games?
Let's say a little bit of both, but I do think they're 16th for shots in the league. No wonder they've only won 2-game 1-0, and then they had an XG conceded expectation of like 3.2 or whatever it was. I did have a look at that. I think it was just over 3 goals they're expected to concede. They've conceded like as many big chances as some of the teams in the bottom area of the table. So, I mean, according to the stats, they've been lucky. But, also, I think actually watching them, City never really looked like beating them by at all, really. So they did well in that game. I think it's a little bit of both, Tom. That's what I'll go with. I'll sit on the fence just like you like to normally.
I would just like to point out that over the course of the 20 games we've had so far in the Premier League, there's only been, I think this is going to be something I'm going to bang on about all year. There's only been 5 away wins. Those away wins were Chelsea against relegation threatened Arsenal, Liverpool against Norwich, which you would expect, Brighton against Burnley, West Ham against Newcastle, and then Spurs against Wolves. So I think a lot of teams will be setting up quite differently now when they play away from home, especially with the crowds back in. So I think for Nuno to go back to that Wolves team, he was never wanting to lose the game, was he? It was similar to when England played Scotland in the Euros. We never wanted to lose it. So he was definitely set up for that. But yeah, I think they've looked solid. They look good without arguably the best player in the team. I think now with Skip and Højbjerg there, it really does free up the attacking players, especially on the counter. So it will be interesting to see how Kane fits in this weekend. No doubt be starting the game. Sort of who's going to drop out of that sort of fold, because you probably look at maybe Bergwijn, but he's looked good the last couple of games. So it'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think both of you have just touched on the fact that they are more defensive than offensive at the moment. And you wouldn't normally expect that from a top 6 team. Probably, like you say, Scott, there's a little bit of an element of them going back to Wolves, Nuno, like you say, not wanting to lose that game. And probably also a case of he's new to the team. So what he's trying to do is build defensive solidity and then maybe start working on the attack. But frankly, this was the way Wolves played for a lot of years. Was quite structured, quite defensive. They never really blew teams away. I can't remember any results where they got kind of like 4 or 5-0 wins. So is this just something that we're going to see continuously from Spurs? Is this the way they're going to play, or do you think Nuno will develop an attacking style as they go forward? Because they got Watford this week, and they should be dominating that game.
I just double checked that stat in terms of shots. So they've conceded the most shots in the league this season. It's 3rd bottom for the most shots in the box conceded. So for a team that's but playing really quite defensively, they are still conceding a decent amount of opportunities in and around their penalty area. But that, I think that's where statistics because from watching the games, it hasn't really felt that way though. And so that's where they can kind of cross over a little bit. And I do think they deserve a hell of a lot of credit to the players at Spurs as well for getting the Reds down, winning the first 2 games 1-0 when the Harry Kane saga has been going on in the background. So they deserve a lot of credit. And I still, for me, Spurs are a big wait and see this season. I mean, they got an embarrassing defeat in the Conference League last week. We'll see where they go from here. But I hope Nuno does well.
Yeah, and that last point, just to finish and wrap up on Spurs, but Harry Kane, how do you see him slotting into the way that this team's playing now? Is it going to be a good thing? Do you think it'll mean that they can play a slightly more attacking, with a more attacking mentality, because they've got that focal point to kind of play through? He's a bit more of a player that can hold it up. Son, more, these are kind of guys that like it on the spin and they move into the space. Kane can hold it up and bring other players into play. So do you think that return will be a good thing? Do you think it'll change what we've seen from the first couple of games?
Be an interesting one, because I can see him sort of sitting in and maybe getting in on top of Dele Alli a bit too much when that's sort of the position he's playing in.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be interesting to see if maybe Dele Alli is the one that gives away, or if he's going to, like you say, it's totally different. It's also going to be interesting what Harry Kane turns up. Harry Kane is a professional, let's be honest. He's, other than maybe spitting his dummy out of the pram, that'll do. Throwing his toys out the pram a little bit about getting his move. We've all had our opinions on that. He's still a top class professional, and I can't imagine him not coming back wanting to get that golden boot again. So I think he will come back all guns blazing on this one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Dele Alli's role is, because he started the season excellently, and his movement for that first goal when he won the penalty was fantastic.
Okay, he's a Spurs fan, and he bleeds the club in essence, other than wanting to leave. But
it sounds like he's trying to bleed the club dry, because on the back of not getting his move to City, it looks like he's now trying to negotiate for a 400k a week contract. So was it all just about money?
No chance. He definitely wanted to leave for trophies. He wouldn't have done the interview with Gary Neville if he didn't, because that was one of the biggest cries out to another club to please come by me I've ever heard from a player. I really want to play with De Bruyne, please.
It was, but I'm sorry, but if he does turn around and sign a new contract with Spurs now, I lose a lot of respect for him, because what's changed in the space of 2 weeks?
Pep's not going to sign him anymore. That's why Pep's obviously, because Pep's going to leave at the end of his contract now.
What, you think well, if Pep's not there, I'm not going to go there.
I think it's been the whole thing that's been, he wants to go to Man City to play for Pep, play for a team that's going to win a load of things, and then he's actually now just seen maybe there's a bit of unsettlement, been a bit unsettled around Man City because of what's going to happen now, that they're going to have to go into transition. So this is like their last season where Pep's not going to be, well, he's obviously going to be building for the season after. So there's a lot of uncertainty going on there. So maybe he's just gone, well, I'm obviously not going to get my move. Haaland, obviously Mbappe's probably going to Madrid, but Lewandowski's put himself available. There's all these players now that are coming available that are probably more attractive than Kane and a bit cheaper. In terms of Lewandowski will be cheaper and he still scores a lot of goals. So I don't know. Maybe he's quit trying to leave and just wants to cash in.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, we'll never know, will we? We will never know. So there's no point speculating about it. If it happens, it happens. But it definitely looks like he's staying at Spurs this year, which is a good thing for them. Moving on from Spurs, let's go on to your boys, Alex, Man United.
I just say, Tom, right? You right. Last week, I had to wait until the last point to talk about Man United when we won 5-1. This week, you put me in the second talking point.
I know what I'm doing, mate. There's a reason I'm wearing this shirt. Anyway,
that was my idea. This talking point was my idea as well, Alex. Just to nail you a bit there.
Anyway, it is a main talking point, Alex, because everybody was raving about you after game week 1, 5-1, smashing your bitterest rivals, or at least you're our bitterest rivals. I don't know if you still feel the same, but I think the point is a really disappointing draw. Away from home at Southampton. I know it carries on the unbeaten record that you've got, which is now is it matched or overtaken Invincibles?
Matched the Invincibles, I think matched Arsenal, yeah.
Longest away unbeaten streak in history, along with the Invincibles, which is impressive, but it's another loss at another loss of points at a team where you should have taken all 3. And does it just show again? Especially with the referee rule changes this year, you've got a lot of players that aren't necessarily up for the fight in those games.
Up for the fight's a weird one. One of our biggest worries. It just shows once again when we don't play with McTominay, we don't have the energy in midfield, and now he's got a growing problem and he's having to have surgery on that, and he's going to be out for a while. Well, not like a long time. I think it'd be shorter than what was first feared. I wouldn't be surprised to see Man United panic buy a central midfielder in the last 5 days of this transfer window, because it just proved once again that Fred and Matic aren't good enough to play together. And it shows a fragility in the midfield, and it's that high press speed, that turnover of play that Liverpool did when they won the league, and obviously came second to City, that we miss in that centre of midfield, because we're all speed up top, but that midfield it's just so tepid in there. It's just so boring, and you can play through it so easily when you've got Matic, he turns slower than a HGV. It's ridiculous. And Fred, I mean, the way he stuck his leg out to try and block that shot that then went in off him into that corner, it was pathetic the way he stuck his leg out. If you ever watch it back, it's pathetic. So at the end of the day, yeah, fragility in the centre midfield, and that's why we won't win the league. And that's why now Chelsea signed Lukaku. We won't come second either. Like that, we need a central midfielder. We've needed it from day one, but there you go. And let's just spend more money.
I mean, go on, Scott.
It was a weird one for me with Martial starting.
Don't get it.
You've absolutely bent Leeds United over last week. Why we started Martial up top when it was so effective last week with Greenwood?
No idea, mate. Joke. So Ollie gets his selections right more times than not, to be fair to him. But why we didn't start Sancho or James and Greenwood up top? Because he looked amazing against Leeds.
Why are you not signing better players? Tuchel came out last week and said Lukaku's ready. He's fine. He's going to play. We bought him to play.
You don't
it annoys me. Like Sancho's ready.
Well, he's definitely ready because he played 90 minutes in a warm-up game against Burnley like 4 days before. So he obviously is ready. So why we've not played him, I don't know. But anyway, you got to trust the manager with that decision, I guess.
2-2 for Fred though. That's a good start for him, isn't it? He's got to be happy with that.
I mean, yeah, I think everybody said before the season there was a couple of positions where Man United needed to probably fill the gap, and one of them was centre back, and one of them was right wing. You've been after Jadon Sancho for ages, but actually, as soon as that's done, now everyone's saying, why did they not buy a central midfielder? I think everyone's known that you've needed a central midfielder, but with the way that Man United play, you don't just need a ball-winning midfielder, you need a deep-line playmaker.
Yeah,
you need somebody that can get the ball, win the ball back, but then also play forward in a quick and effective manner, because the way Man United play, they play with speed, they play with pace. Even when they're not counter-attacking, they want to move the ball quickly. That's when they're the most effective. Fred, even McTominay, I don't think can do that. I think you need somebody to hit the ball and play deep passes out to the wings, get the wingers involved quickly, and that's how Man United can be successful.
Well, I disagree with you on McTominay, but other than that, I completely agree with the rest of the point that you said there. And it's a shame for me that what's Donny van der Beek doing here still? I don't understand. I thought that was what he was here for. I thought he could play in a 6 or an 8, and I thought that's what he could do. And I feel like he's a big decision now for Ollie. Like, give him game time, or I mean, he'll play in the League Cup again, but we didn't buy £40 million midfielder to play in the League Cup anyway.
It is a strange one. But you're certainly in a better position than last year. But even so, I think games against Saints away, a one-off at the start of the season, you can let it go. But there were signs in that performance that were good for me as a Leeds fan, because I didn't think that you ever looked really that dominant in the game. But as a Man United fan, I'd be worried. Yeah,
just to be clear on it, I'm really happy with the signings Ollie's made. The 2 transfers are fantastic. I'm really happy with the amount of money he's been given to spend. I think he's been back fantastically. I think we're making good progress and moving forward. It's the clearing out of the crap that needs to happen, and that clearing out of crap needs to happen to then finance that central midfielder, and then to finance the striker that we inevitably need next summer, and that's what has to happen. So let's just wait and see.
At least you get to get your own back on Villarreal in the Champions League, mate. You've just been drawn against them, and Man City, PSG in the same group's a bit naughty, isn't it?
Wonderful. That's
Juve, like Chelsea as well.
Well, maybe we'll review those at the end if we've got time. So it sounds like there's some good fixtures in there. We'll move on from Man United and Spurs, and we're going to go down the league. So we're going to go straight away to Scott and your coverage of the Championship. With 4 games in now, Scott, top 2 already, Fulham and West Brom. Not very surprising. Is that just a sign of things to come? Is it going to stay like that all year?
Yeah, yes, I think so. Yeah, the two of the big favourites to go up at the start of the season. Fulham have beaten Hull, Millwall, Huddersfield, and a really good draw against a really tough Middlesbrough side so far. West Brom wins against Blackburn, Sheffield United, and Luton, and then a really good draw for them against Bournemouth. So, games in which they've dropped the points, they have been against teams you'd expect to be in or around that playoff conversation coming into the season. I can see them absolutely being up there. It's no surprise. I was quite interested to maybe have a look at West Brom last night, but they played the kids, so it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from getting beat 6-0. But I would suggest many of them players will be playing at the weekend anyway. So yeah, I think them two will. I'll be surprised if them two are in the top 6 coming into the season.
They gave Arsenal a welcome lifter, didn't they? Arsenal only played Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Nicola Pepe for 70 million quid against the. Sorry, Tom, you didn't put Arsenal on the agenda, so I had to mention them.
I know you were talking about them. I know you'd mention them anyway, so I don't need to put them in.
No. It's just that welcome lift that West Brom gave Arsenal last night was very nice of them.
That was such a big game for Arsenal. It's so silly. That was massive. And
Actually,
you could see Arteta was you could see how nervous he looked having his interview before the game, because if they struggled through that, even if they got a 2-1 scrapey win against the kids of West Brom, it could have been them out.
Yeah. I think the Arsenal board are backing him to the hill, a bit like Ollie. But I think it certainly is, the pressure's growing on him, isn't it? Any other noticeable results in the Championship? Anything we should take note of?
Yes, there's certainly a few that caught the eye. Coventry, wow, what a start to the season they're having. They got a 97th minute winner, one of Scunthorpe United's old boys, Matt Godden. Nice. We released him, didn't think he was good enough, as we do with most players, and they go off and they're brilliant. So yeah, got 3 points. They absolutely battered Reading, to be fair, in that game, and it's actually taken them to 4th at the minute. So what a start to the season it is for Coventry. Certainly one that's going to catch any eye if you're looking through the scores. Luton 0, Birmingham 5. What a ridiculous result for Birmingham then. Scott Hogan, always prolific at this level, and a really, really good display. He's having a great season so far. Chong. So you never know. He could be the answer to some Man United problems there, but he's having a great season.
Tate. What a guy. It's just the hair as he runs around.
The hair's amazing.
Love him.
I think you need a bit of speed when the hair's that big.
He played in that memorable night when we beat PSG. What a guy. What a lad.
I remember him jumping on Rashford when he bagged the goal. But yeah, he's had a very good season so far. He's maybe this season he needs away from the Premier League and the Championship, finding his level a bit. But yeah, biggest win for Birmingham for almost a decade. And then you've got to look at Sheffield United. And if you're not a Sheffield United fan, you're laughing, because they thought they'd equalise in the 91st minute when Billy Sharp popped up, only for Huddersfield just to go straight up the other end, score to win 2-1 in a Yorkshire derby at Sheffield United. 1 draw, 3 losses, 1 goal scored. It's a bit of a tough one. They did get a win midweek against Derby in the EFL Cup. So yeah, that could give them a bit of confidence, but
things you love to see.
Wilder in.
Yeah. Anything else big out of the Championship that we should know?
I mean, Forest will be struggling 4 from 4, same start they had last year, so that'll be worrying for them. Big news coming out this week. One, Connor Wickham is at Preston North End training. That'll be massive for them because they've only scored 3 goals in 4 games. Winger Morgan Rogers has signed on loan for Bournemouth from Man City, apparently very highly rated. And West Brom side Jordan Hugill on loan from Norwich. Anyone who watched the game last night would be saying Zaha, big game for him because they knew Jordan Hugill would be getting in. And for me, an eye-catching one, and one to ask you about, Tom, because he's impressed me every time I've seen him come on. Poveda, I think that's very exciting for him at Blackburn. How do you think he'll get on? I think he'll do very well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'd have said a year ago he didn't have the physicality for the Championship. I think that's why we didn't see him. He's a very good player, very good technical player, but he's not, and probably players get sick of hearing this, but he's not very big. He wasn't very muscly, and I did worry, like in the Championship, that stepped down, but he has bulked up a lot this summer. I think it'll be great for him. He's very, very tricky. He's probably technically a level above the Championship. It's just whether he can deal with the physicality of it. So
it'll be a great season for him. And Blackburn, I think, had Elliott as well, didn't they? He went
Yeah.
and played 30 games there, and now he's starting for Liverpool. So if we can do the same for Pervade, that would be brilliant.
Exactly right. He came on leaps and bounds, and they're certainly not lacking some, especially with Adam Armstrong going to Southampton. So yeah, very excited to see that. Very excited.
Brilliant. Right, going down to League One. Other side of Sheffield, and the club having a great start to the season. 3 wins and a draw. Pretty good start for them, Scotty.
I'm just going to touch on the last couple of things in the Championship. Just looking ahead to the weekend, if that's all right, Tom. Sorry if I've missed out. So a couple of games that caught the eye. Derby Forest, big derby there. Well, Derby for Derby against Forest.
Hey.
Forest 4 from 4 losses. Need a win. Derby ticking over. They're doing all right. Doing what they need to do at the moment. And in Cardiff, Bristol City, Cardiff early kick-off on Saturday. They will actually go top if they win. And the top goal scorer in the Championship is centre-back Aidan Flint. He's got 4 goals already for Cardiff, so keep an eye out on that one. And then 1 for the Acca, so we will be putting this on social this week. But it did come in last week. Anyone that listened to that and put it on, we're already in big profit. So that comfortably came in. So Championship this week, Huddersfield versus Reading, over 1.5. 3 out of 4 of Huddersfield's games have been over 1.5, and all 4 for Reading have been over 1.5. So sorry, Tom, we'll slide back to League One.
No worries, that was all tactical. Okay. All right, going into League One then, Scotty, give us a little overview. Sheffield, like I said, good start for them. Counter to the troubles on the other side of the city. Darren Moore doing a great job.
Yeah, very interesting. Like you say, it's chalk and cheese what's going on in that city at the minute. I picked Sheffield Wednesday to be struggling at the start of the season. That's so far proved me very wrong. 3 wins in the draw from the opening 4, 5 goals, 0 conceded. Darren Moore, anyone that remembers him, big, hard, solid centre-back. He's built on having strong defences in his teams. And yeah, it's really looking like it. They brought Barry Bannon. Not brought him in. They've got Barry Bannon. It's great experience. And I think a goalkeeper they've got for League One, Peacock Farrell. I think that's a great little bit of an, they've got him on loan.
That penalty save was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Spaghetti hands.
What a save that was from that pen.
Yeah, but it's a great shot stopper, isn't he? I think you would say about Peacock Farrell.
He's a good shot stopper. He's got mistakes in him. Definitely got mistakes.
I would say majority of League One keepers have got mistakes in them, though. So I think if you've got a shot stopper in there, that's why I think he's good for a League One team, because he's a great shot stopper. There's no keeper in League One that's not got mistakes in them.
Yeah, you're right. Probably League One's a good level. Yeah. Brilliant. Talk about Ipswich today, Scotty. Struggling last week, but another season favourite in Charlton are also struggling. One opening day draw followed by 3 defeats. Worried?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're highly tipped at the start of the season. I thought they'd have a good season. Got Nigel Atkins, one of Scunthorpe United's old bosses. He's done well with a lot of clubs. He's done well with Hull. He got Southampton up to the Premier League when they were struggling in League One. So I think they've got the right man. I would say to him, all the defeats so far have been very narrow. So they are only just getting edged out. The point did come against Sheffield Wednesday as well. The worrying thing for me, shots on target, I was looking through the statistics. The average are only about 2 a game. When you've got Jaden Stockley, who at this level should be at least 10, well, at least 15 goals for me at this level in a 46 game season. That's worrying for him. So they really need to start creating more clear XGs, I guess, if you choose a bit of your fantasy football chat there, Alex. But yeah, slightly worried. They need to get going quick.
Yeah. And any other standout results apart from those guys?
Yeah, I think you got to look at Wickham. Relegated last year, they gave a good fight. And they're sitting second. They've had a really good start to the season. Beat Lincoln 1-0. Team that really struggled after. So Darren Moore left sort of January, February time last year to go up to a division to join Sheffield Wednesday. When Darren Moore left, they really struggled, went from the playoffs like mid-table. They've really continued, the second bottom of the league. And one team I did tip to struggle at the start of the season was Shrewsbury, and they're not disappointed. 4 games, 4 losses, no goals, 7 conceded. yeah, good luck.
No, well, I hope they don't go down because that's where all my family are based. So they'll be a bit gutted if that happens. Anyway, moving on from that. Any other standout results from League One?
Nothing to just looking ahead to the weekend now. I think a couple of one good game springs to mind. Sunderland Wickham, second place Wickham against fourth place Sunderland. Both had really good starts this season, and they're both desperate. I mean, Sunderland fans are absolutely on their knees praying that they get promoted this year. It's just who they play in the playoffs, because no doubt they'll be in the playoffs, and see if they can win the playoffs for a change.
Yeah, that'd be nice for them.
Can't wait to watch them on Netflix.
I was gonna say, carry the series on. And you're one for the Acabet from League One, Scotty?
Yeah, I've gone for MK Dons against Accrington solely for MK Dons. We've gone over 2.5 in this one. I didn't even really want to even look at Accrington because MK Dons were just slapping me in the face with goals. Previous 4 games have all been over 2.5. That's including 16 goals. So an average of 4 a game. And with MK Dons been at home in that game as well, I'd be surprised if they won 2 or 3 goals.
Wonderful. All right. And moving on to League Two, any standout results from League Two this week? Anything that kind of stood out to you as surprising or shocking?
Yeah, there's definitely one. The team that's top of the league, Forest Green Rovers, 6-3. What a game, 9 goals against Crawley. They're absolutely flying. I just want to just take a moment to just say a bit about them. 4 wins from 4, 13 goals, 6 conceded. So an entertaining team to watch. That's averaging just under 5 a game. And they've done so well over the last few years. Obviously, they're famous for being a vegan outfit and being the first vegan outfit to play on. The whole setup is vegan and really sustainable as well. First season when they got promoted, they finished 21st. They stayed up by a point. Then they came 5th. They lost in the playoffs. Then they came 10th, which is actually in a 24 team league is not too bad. And then last season 6th, lost in the playoffs. So the last few seasons they've been in or thereabout. I really think they'll do the job. Just to say, the manager is Rob Edward. He used to be the under-23 manager at Wolves. He's like 33 years old. So for his first full job so far, he's absolutely smashing it.
Yeah, it'd be great to see a club run with that kind of mentality come up.
And you'd love it, Tom.
I'd love it, yeah. Absolutely love it. Brilliant. And any other news from League Two outside of Forest Green?
Yeah, so Bradford looked good. They beat Mansfield 3-2. Big favourites to go up there. They remain second. Shout out to Harrogate. Only other team behind Forest Green at 100%. They've one less game at the minute because they missed a couple because of COVID. Played 3, won 3. Beat Barrow at the weekend and Leyton Orient midweek. So an unbelievable start to them. Absolutely flying. It'll be interesting to watch them in a few weeks for you boys when we go to watch Scunny Harrogate. Yeah. Hopefully we don't get a spanking. Just worrying for Oldham. 4 losses from 4. They did, however, get a win against League One Accrington in the AFL Cup. But yeah, rock bottom of the league. And Walsall, second bottom. And yeah, keep an eye on Salford. Lost again to High Flying Swindon, third bottom of the league. So will Gary Neville's patience be running thin? We will see.
I'm surprised it already hasn't. You know, notorious.
Yeah, classic Gary Neville, hypocrite. And I heard Oldham as well are doing. Isn't the owner's in Dubai, isn't he, or something? And then
it's all kicking off.
The guy that's representing him's doing like a Q&A with the fan group or whatever to tell them what's going on. It's not a good state down there, is it, at the moment?
It's not. They've been protesting mid games. They've been throwing things onto the pitch. It's a sorry state of affairs. It's looking very much like Bury was a few years ago. So not a good time for that club.
We're probably going to see more and more of that over the next couple of years. I think probably the full impact of COVID is actually felt, and a lot of that business support moves away. So game of the weekend. Anything to look out for? What?
Game of the weekend, Sutton Oldham for me. Sutton is still looking for the first win against bottom of the league Oldham, so they will fancy it against them. And then Salford, they need to get the season up and running. They play Newport, a Newport team that did get hammered 8-0 last night by Southampton, so good chance for that. And I just want to shout out Villa. I wish more clubs did this. So they played Barrow, they absolutely battered Barrow 6-0 in the cup. As per rules, they would get 45% of the gate receipts. They've said to Barrow, you can just keep everything. For a small League Two club, any football league club, that's so big for them. It was a full house as well. So fair play Villa. And they don't need the money, but it's a gesture in itself. And that little gesture is going to be massive for Barrow. It means they can maybe go out and buy another player. So fair play. I like to see more of that.
They'll definitely pay the wages, didn't it? It was great. And I think they worked out after taxes and all that sort of stuff, it might be pushing up 40, 50 grand, I think they said. Yeah. So it's a good amount of money. So well done to Villa there.
Yeah, you do question whether they could do a little rule change in there and make it a bit more sensible. And just it's great of Villa doing that, but should they have been entitled to, as a Premier League club, to 45% of gate receipts for a lower league club anyway?
Get that past Daniel Levy, Tom.
Yeah, see what I can do. See what I can do. Right, Scotty, round off one for the ACCA. What's the third one?
I hate doing it, but it does involve my team.
No.
If we did this, we'd be in trouble.
I think the first time ever, I just couldn't stay away from it. Tranmere, so boring and crap. And we play Tranmere, and we're boring and crap. So under 2.5, 3 out of 4 of our games have been under 2.5. We've hardly scored any. And Tranmere's all 4 games under 2.5. 4 league games, 2 goals total.
Wow.
So yeah.
4-4 incoming.
I'd be shocked if it's over 2.5.
Right, wonderful. Do you want to just give us a little sum of those 3, one for the ACCA, Scotty? Just round them off again.
Yeah, of course. So League 2, you got Scunny versus Tranmere under 2.5. League 1, we have MK Dons versus Accrington over 2.5. And in the Championship, we have Huddersfield versus Reading over 1.5.
Wonderful. We're 100% win record so far this year, 1 out of 1. So thanks for that, Scotty. That was a nice little treat last weekend, and hopefully we can keep it going. Just gamble responsibly, as always. Right, thank you very much for that roundup, Scott. Some interesting. I think it's interesting to see how things are developing in those lower leagues. Lots of surprise and shocks, but also some things to be expected in the Championship, and that kind of Fulham and West Brom at the top makes a lot of sense. But moving back into the Premier League, one of the probably strongest starters for this year, West Ham. They had a really good year last year, but they started just as strong and trouncing Leicester even before. That Leicester had a man sent off, and it was a terrible challenge from Perez if you haven't seen it. But they were brilliant, I thought, even before the sending off. Can they keep this momentum going? And what do you think has led to their early season success?
The momentum carried on from last year, isn't it? Fair play to them. I think they've done absolutely fantastic. They are, I think it's 3rd for the amount of shots. They're 2nd for the amount of shots in the box. They're top for big chances created. I know they faced 10 men again of Leicester, obviously, at that time, but I think they've been playing great football. That team's been together now for a full year. Rice and Souček, just super solid in centre midfield, turning over the play. Cresswell, Soufal, creating chances. And then Ben Rama's come to the fore, hasn't he? He's done absolutely incredibly to replace that hole that Jesse Lingard's left. But it's got to be said that he's done it. He's looked great on the eye. But Fornells, Scotty, Fornells, your man, he's actually created more big chances and got a higher expected assist rate than Ben Rama. Fornells actually, as an option, we'll get on fantasy football in a bit, but his statistics are actually better than Ben Rama's, even though the eye test is definitely ahead of Ben Rama. So they're getting it from all angles. Moyes has got them well drilled. You hope they all stay fit. And I'm super pleased for Moyes that it wasn't a flash in the pan, and more may it continue.
I think when you look at the team, it's like you said there, Kufel, Dawson, O'Connor, Cresswell. I feel like every time I look at the team, that's the back 4 with Fabianski in goal. Souček, Rice, Bowen, Souček and Rice as well. And then you've got that front 4 that are really exciting. And like you say, you've got your base that if you've got a back 4 and a keeper that play week in, week out, it just sets you up so well to go forward and just let those attacking players do their thing. So exciting to watch. I'm so happy, like I said, for Moyes as well. Big David Moyes fan. Thought he was very unfairly treated at Man United, going into the impossible job. It will just be very interesting when they start Europe to see how they get on, because that's when the rotation starts. And is the strength in their squad strong enough? When you look there, sort of Yarmolenko, Martin Noble, Lanzini, some players that can do it, a couple of injuries. It's what do you prioritise then? Do you prioritise Europe because you've not been there for years, or do you want to try and push on in the Premier League?
2 games a week for Antonio, isn't it? 2 games a week. Can you do it?
Yeah, it's such a good point because they just do not have they don't have a second 11 like a lot of these top clubs, these top 6 clubs do. They just can't sustain playing their strongest team. With all the cup games as well, they just cannot sustain playing their strongest 11 in every single game. It's just not going to be possible. But it'll be interesting because the point about their core is so true. Any successful side, it's generally they've got a consistent and solid spine. You can almost get away with having average players on the wings and in those kind of wide areas, but if your spine is always solid, I've always thought, if you've got a good centre back partnership, if you've got good central midfielders and one striker down the middle that can kind of bring everything together, you're always going to do well. But the point on Benrahma and Fornals, I think you probably from the stats side, Fornals, it looks great on paper and everything like that. But I think when you've watched West Ham in those games, every time Benrahma gets the ball, he feels it's that eye test, isn't it? He looks like he's going to do something. The ball's constantly getting fed into him, and I think that's probably a sign of the trust that the West Ham players have got in him to, like you said, Alex, pick up that role that Lingard leaving has left, and he's done it brilliantly.
But he's not even in the top 20 for shots in the league, and his XG is the same as Adam Armstrong's and Adama Traore's. He's 16th for passes in the final third. He's only had one successful cross all season, but what's mattered is that he scored goals, he's got his assists, and exactly what you say. You watch him, he picks up the ball, it's exciting. You want to watch him play football, don't you? That's the difference maker. And again, I think I've given like 3 sets of stats so far this podcast, and actually I probably disagree with all 3 of them. And in terms of watching the games, it's different. And I just love watching West Ham this season. Really pleased.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of people. I think when they think of David Moyes, they think quite like conservative football, but you look at all you have to do is look at the attacking returns or the attacking output that they get from their wing backs in Creswell and Koufal. Like I think you said, Scotty, they're constantly getting forward, pushing high up the pitch. They're 2 of the biggest threats they have on the pitch. And now you've got hopefully a fully fit Antonio who looks like he's in the absolute form of his life. I mean, they've got a couple of good fixtures. They're going to start the season really, really well.
It's nothing new, is it? Look, Baines and Coleman, the Everton, nothing new this system for him.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing, mate. I was going to say you look at Everton when he played there. He was attacking, he was fluid, and he was the manager who got him into the Champions League top 4.
Yeah. And I think a little shout out to Scotty's favourite boy as well, Declan Rice, because I think he's also been very good so far. And you watch him, he doesn't play these huge raking passes over the top, but what he does do is he picks the ball up in dangerous areas and makes very good decisions. And most of the time, they are forward or wide passes out to the flanks, and he gives it to the people that can do the job. And that's, I think, what a really effective kind of holding midfielder is supposed to do. So Rice has been really, really good.
Manu's panic buy, isn't it? Incoming.
Genuinely, I could see that happening. I could see a panic bid. I think it's something that would I'm not surprised me at all.
What would you have to pay to get him at this stage of the season, though? The transfer market, yeah,
probably. But the thing is, I can see it. If Jalen's goes for 35, I can genuinely see us doing it. But anyway, whatever. Moving from United.
Anyway, great start from West Ham. I personally hope it carries on because I love watching them at the moment. A great team, and like you say, Moyes is a great manager, probably underrated. And probably the last talking point for the Premier League today, before we go on to fantasy, is probably the big game, the biggest game we've had so far. Chelsea-Liverpool. So just before we actually look ahead to that match, let's just have a little quick talk about the starts for those 2 teams. So, Alex, talk to me about Chelsea. What have you liked about them? Any concerns about the way they've played? Do you think there's anything that kind of stands out to you as worrying for them? Or is it just plain sailing for them now? Since they're top or second in the Premier League.
I think they've got 2 starting 11s, bar Kante and Lukaku. I think they could literally put out 9 different players, Kepa maybe, 8 different attacking players, 8 different outfield players to play with Kante and Lukaku any week, and they could still do amazingly well. Obviously, Mount's an important player. They've got a lot, but they've plugged that hole, which was their weakness, and it showed 1,000 times over against Arsenal. And I think you can see the way that they play together. Tuchel's got them in a great system. Yeah, I think I don't really see any weaknesses in their team, and that's a bit frightening.
What about the one player that sticks out to me, because I really like him, but he was a bit defensively poor when he played. But Reece James, I just thought his ball delivery just adds so much to Chelsea's game, and he had so much space against Arsenal, for example. Do you think he's going to back him against Liverpool? Do you think we'll see Reece James play more? It just seems like Tuchel isn't sure about him. Why do you think that is?
I don't think he'll play against Liverpool. I think he'll play Aspi at right wing back because the game will be 0-0 and it will be boring. And that's the way that it's going to be. I think I'd be shocked if we're sat here next week talking about a 3-2 and a thriller. I'll be shocked. I think that's the thing. He doesn't trust him defensively, because I guarantee if he was nailed on at right wing back, he'd be in my fantasy team 100%, because the attacking returns he can get and going forward looks great. But I just don't think Tuchel quite trusts him yet going defensively. But I don't think it's anything that can't be coached. So definitely a good young player there in making.
I disagree with you in the game. I've got no basis of it, other than I just don't think it'll be a 0-0. A Friday, it's Saturday. If it was Saturday lunchtime, maybe. It's Saturday. It's tea time kickoff. It's at Anfield. It's two of the biggest clubs. It's in front of the cameras. I don't know. I just think the crowd is going to be unbelievable, and I'd be shocked if it was 0-0.
I mean, Tuchel will go to Anfield thinking, if I can get a 0-0, I've done an unbelievable job. You know, Anfield with the fans back. I love to think that it's going to be like an amazing 4-3 game, but these games can go. So we've seen it before. They can go either way. I don't think there's an easy way of predicting whether it's going to be.
It'll be 3-2.
High scoring or low scoring.
I hope you're right. Scott. I really do.
Right.
I hope so. Let's do it. I hope you are.
Just finishing off on Chelsea. Now they're 2 games in, and you look at how strong that team is and how strong that bench is. You kind of got to give credit to their recruitment team over the last couple of years, because it looks like they're shifting Zuma to West Ham and they're going to bring in Koundé now. And they've made some unbelievable signings over the last 24 months. Havertz, Werner, Lukaku. These are unbelievable players.
I mean, give them credit. Give them credit, but I'm not being funny. I think you give people credit that bring players in for teams like Burnley and Southampton for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million, and they've turned them really well. Yeah. I don't think there's any credit in going, Havertz is one of the best players in Germany. Werner's been one of the best players in Germany. Let's just throw 60, 70, 80 millions at him. Well, I don't think that's good.
You give them credit for a different reason, because a lot of teams spend a lot of money. Man United spent over £1 billion trying to make Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a good manager. So, if you look at it like that.
Ole's only spent 300 million. Anyway, only. Sorry. I just said only then.
It depends what figure you look at, Alex. But I guess the point is they've signed players in the right positions, and it looks like it's all coming together. That's why the credit is due, because they could have spent that money and it not come together.
I mean, Havertz and Werner have both underperformed so far. I mean, Havertz scored the winner of the Champions League final, and that's paid his fee, basically. And everyone forgets about the fact that actually he's been bang average 90% of the games he's played. And Werner has really underwhelmed. So I think actually they're both bad signings so far, and they've got a lot to prove.
And Ziyech under the
Fair enough.
Yeah. I actually think
been injured the whole time, hasn't he?
I think
the best bit of business last year, and I don't know if he'll play this year, is Thiago Silva for free.
Yeah,
that was the best bit of business.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, moving on to Liverpool, they've also had a good start to the season. I think they'll be happy that the first game against Chelsea is at Anfield, because I feel like early season you want that home crowd advantage, and especially while you're still finding form. There's going to be so many interesting battles in that game. Seeing Virgil van Dijk go up against Lukaku, I'm quite excited for that, because BVD's not going to allow it. Mari struggled with that, and you could see he was getting aggravated and started lashing out at Lukaku, just kicking him. You're not going to see that from BVD. He's very controlled, very composed. How do you think BVD deals with Lukaku in that game? And Matip probably.
Yeah, well, Matip when he's fit is a great centre back, and I think and Van Dijk's one of the best centre back in the league when he's fit. I mean, arguably with Diaz. So I think it's going to be a great battle between them all, and they might end up nullifying each other. I'm excited to watch it though.
I think the two whoever plays that CDM role for Liverpool is huge, because where Lukaku is most dangerous is when he gets the ball to feet and he has the defender obviously touch tight to him here. Whoever watched Monday Night Football, I know you did, Al. They did a really good piece on it, Gary Neville and Carragher, and they showed when it works and when it doesn't. And it's having that confidence to step up and be with your back four rather than hanging back. Because as soon as he gets that touch tight on you and then can spin you around, pushes you off, he's so dangerous. And we saw that with his first goal at the weekend. He was, Pablo Mari, he's absolutely bullied him, but I mean, it's Arsenal.
It's a good point, though. If you can stop the ball getting to him in the first place, you've probably won half the battle, haven't you?
Which Arsenal didn't do. There was big holes there, and it went to his feet. And it's like we play five-a-side football. If you've got a big guy up there, and he keeps getting his ball to his feet, you're in a lot of trouble.
And if you look at those central areas, that's probably where Chelsea, in my opinion, have got the edge in the centre of the park. That's where Liverpool could find it difficult because they've got such strength in the centre. Chelsea, they just play really well through the middle of the park. So it's an interesting battle that's shaping up there. Where do you think any of the other key battles are in that match, Alex? You know, you've got VVD and Matic trying to deal with Lukaku and maybe whoever's holding for Liverpool. But is there anywhere else on the pitch that you think that game's going to be won or lost?
Yeah, Liverpool play really high down the wings with Trent and Tsimikas or Robbo, and they'll be coming up against whoever plays at wing back for Chelsea, Alonso and Aspi, probably something like that. And that's a key battle down the side because they're probably both the most creative positions for each of the teams. So, but they're going to also be given the job to nullify each other. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they work alongside the midfielders. Because you know how much Hendo obviously covers Trent over that side, for an example. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they work together. And I think people could be pulled around quite a lot and create a lot of space. But we'll wait and see. Hopefully it's a good game.
Hopefully. So, Scott, you've said 3-2, but which way?
Liverpool
3-2. Okay. And Alex, you reckon you support that, or are you going sticking with your 0-0?
0-0. I'll be sticking a tenner on it as well.
I personally think Chelsea are going to edge this one. I can see them making a really strong title challenge this year. I think it's going to be 1-0 Chelsea. I think they're going to. I agree with Alex. There's a lot of creativity in those wide areas, but I just look at that midfield and I just think Chelsea are going to control the game and probably nullify a lot of Liverpool's threats.
Kante is the GOAT. He plays well, they win.
I love him. I can't believe they were considering letting him go at one point. Somebody had obviously, just had a complete mental breakdown at Chelsea because that would have been the biggest mistake they've ever made. So luckily they're tying him. Well, luckily for them, they're tying him down to a new contract now. Right. Well, I'm sure we'll all enjoy that game. Alex, moving on to our favourite subject, fantasy football. Give us a little overview of fantasy football this week and let us know what's going on in the fantasy world.
It was a week where our captain choices, Salah and Fernandes, both let us down. And the top performers this week were defenders. I think out of the 12 players that got double figure hauls, 7 of them were defenders this week. Reece James, top 19 points, 18 points. And then we had Antonio, obviously performing well with 16. Ben Rama, his friend, got 12. But Mings, Duffy, Laporte, Trent, Tsimikas, Diaz all performed really, really well. I want to give a shout out to the manager of the week in the All In Football Podcast League. If you haven't joined that yet, then make sure that you do. I'll give you the code in a bit. But James Barker, manager of the week, triple captain Danny Ings. And he scored that absolute wonder goal. So 90 points for Jimmy. Well done there. Absolutely, it's rock solid pick, that one, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Jack Alcroft still leads the way in that league. But it's been an exciting start. 2 high scoring weeks, doing all right overall rank wise, and it's been exciting.
Wonderful. And I guess probably the big burning question on everyone's mind, Alex, is Mr. Romelu Lukaku. He looks so dangerous. Is it time to bring him in or patience?
I've been inundated with DMs this week about Lukaku. Honestly, I've had at least 3, and it has just been madness. So I did some research into Lukaku and should you bring him in or shouldn't you bring him in? I think the main thing to focus on here is fixtures. So Liverpool away, obviously we've just talked about. They've got Aston Villa at home, but then they've got Tottenham away and Man City at home. We've just talked about Tottenham's not conceded a goal yet this season. They've given up some chances. And obviously Man City at home is a tough game before their fixtures swing incredibly. They've got Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, and like Watford. They've got a ridiculous run of fixtures at that point. So one thing I would say, I looked at the pros and cons. Now, obviously, if you bring him in now, then you might beat the price rises. You get on him early. If he hauls, he does really well, and you get all those all those happy manager. You can gloat on Twitter or whatever else you guys want to do. His stats, his history, his longevity. He's consistently in that team. He's not going to get dropped by Tuchel, is he? He's not a rotation risk. He's going to play every week. And he's got pedigree in terms of delivering against top teams. I think the main con, well, there are two main cons. The first one is you have to rip up your team if you want to still keep your premiums in there. You're going to have to probably get rid of one of Bruno or Salah or Trent. So you can't have Trent, Bruno, Salah and Lukaku all in the same team. And especially you can't have them all in the same team and still afford Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's got great fixtures, or potentially Mason Greenwood. Benrahma was an amazing enabler, but I think you have to rip up your team. So you have to wonder about where you would get other points from, and would Lukaku's points actually, is he going to outscore those players that you would have instead of him in those next 4 games? And my personal opinion is no. And the second thing is, would you captain him in those 4 games? I think you wouldn't captain him in 3 out of 4 games. You'd captain him at home against Villa, obviously. Sorry, Jimmy, I know you did really well this week in the Fantasy League and you're a Villa fan, but yeah, definitely captaining Lukaku against your team. But you wouldn't captain him against Liverpool. You wouldn't captain him against Spurs. You wouldn't captain him against Man City. You're paying £11.5 million for a player that you're not going to captain 3 out of the next 4 weeks. For me, if I had to call it, it's a wait and see. And I would say, make sure that you then plan to have the funds available to make that transfer for when he plays Southampton at home. And I'd probably get on him quite early that game week. His price is probably going to go up because everyone's going to buy him.
Or use your wild card.
Or use your wild card. Yeah, or use your wild card. But I think using your wild card in game week 8 is probably a little bit stronger, just simply because after game week 7 there's the international break. So you get a little bit more of a vibe and time to make those decisions, and obviously injuries, etc. So, but you've made a really good point there, Tom, because actually, if you get the funds to get Lukaku in game week 7, there's a potential also that you'll be able to delay using your wild card till the next fixture swing in game week 14. So it's another option.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, your thoughts are? Go on, Tommy. Tell me. You've always got to think about these things.
I do always have to think about this. I wouldn't be bringing Lukaku in now. I think even if he does end up getting points, it's all about making the right decisions. And if you bring Lukaku in now, I think you're bringing him in for the wrong decisions. It's an impulse decision because he's got hard fixtures. And yes, if somebody does score, it most likely will be Lukaku, but he's probably not going to go and bag 5 goals over those fixtures. So similar to what you're saying, there's better options out there for cheaper at the moment. You should be, my plan, I'd love to have Lukaku in, and I probably will, but game week 7, game week 8, that's definitely when I'm looking at. I've got 4 weeks to get there, 4 weeks of transfers. So as long as I've got the funds in reserve to bring him in at some point, I'm happy with that. I certainly am in no rush to get him in. It's not like I think if he had unbelievable fixtures, then yes, but he doesn't. So no.
I agree. I wanted to just quickly touch on captain choices for the weekend. Spurs obviously playing Watford at home. That seems like a good fixture to be able to captain someone like Son. Expect Kane to start, but I think you'd probably still captain Son over Kane in that situation. Leicester play Norwich, but have Leicester look that good? Probably not, but that's such a great fixture for them still, even though it is away from home. Man United play Wolves away, so if you want to go with Bruno or Greenwood, you could do something like that. But the outstanding fixture is the team we've talked about earlier, and it's West Ham at home against Crystal Palace. And you look at Antonio's returns and Benrahma's returns. It's Antonio first as your captain. If you don't have Antonio, but you do have Benrahma, it's captain Benrahma. And there's a reason why those two are the most transferred players in this week. It's good to be able to, I think this week as well, you can go a little bit different with your captain if you wanted to. If, let's say, for example, you don't have like Antonio or Benrahma, if you wanted to take a gamble on someone a little bit left field, Brentford at home, Danny Ings, go after what Jimmy's done. You could always go back that. He's got 2 and 2. So yeah, there's quite a few good captain choices, and also anyone Man City against Arsenal, because Arsenal have looked terrible at the start of the season. You could back Mahrez. Do you think Jesus is going to play? I don't know. So the captain choices are far and wide, but number 1 on that list is Antonio.
Wonderful. Well, thanks very much for that, Alex. It's certainly an interesting selection dilemma that's coming up, not only with Lukaku, but with who to captain over the next few game weeks. So it should be interesting. With the end of fantasy football wrap up, we're going to move on to our last section, which as usual is quick fire questions. So short and sweet answers, boys, and we're going to go through some topics that we haven't had time to cover in the other sections. So first one, I'm going to come to you, Alex. Pep is announced that he's probably going to leave City in 2023. You're obviously very happy about that.
Come on.
But who do they possibly get in to, I guess, rebuild? Maybe not carry on the legacy, but start again. They almost need a fresh start, don't they? After having Pep in for that amount of time.
Pretty irreplaceable, though, Pep, isn't he? He's the greatest manager in modern day time since Ferguson. So it's basically difficult to replace him. And there's absolutely no way there can't be a little bit of regression at City and change over time. So we'll wait and see. I genuinely couldn't give you a name right now. Let's see how the lad gets on there who's taken over at Bayern Munich, or let's see if Pochettino can actually win something major. But these guys, yeah, I don't know. He's great at it. Bye, Pep.
It is interesting. I think they've got to go completely left field on that one personally, but we will see.
Arteta in.
Yeah, maybe. Scotty, Mbappe has just formed probably the best attacking trio in the world in terms that we've ever seen. Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar, and now he's decided that this is the time that he wants to go to Real Madrid. You know, I know he's loved the idea of playing for Real Madrid from all accounts, but what's the logic in that decision? Wouldn't you want to play as part of that front three?
Depends what your ego is. He clearly wants to be the main boy. He's not going to be the main boy alongside Lionel Messi, and arguably not alongside Neymar, if it was just those two, like has been. So yeah, he just wants to go, and I think maybe I hope he feels like he needs to go to. I know, potentially they're not so big anymore, but to a main league and win trophies at Real Madrid and sort of be the out and out player there. But yeah, I respect it. It's probably his agent pushing for the move, but yeah, I like it. He's got a chance to play with Messi, but he's looking at moving, and he's realised he's coming up mid-20s now, is it? Ish. He wants to get his legacy down. So yeah, fair play. I like to see it.
Yeah, I mean I think he's 21, Mbappe, isn't he? So
21. He's 21. Yeah,
He's got around forever.
1 year left on his contract, and
he's still a baby. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see if that's going to cost an arm and a leg, or it's not going to happen. Scott, coming back to you straight away, just a question, because we had a talk about this earlier, and West Brom played a lot of youngsters against Arsenal, and it's just really, is the League Cup relevant anymore? Is it time for us to kind of push that tournament to the side and maybe just put some of the money from the League Cup into the FA Cup and free up some of this fixture congestion?
It's relevant in the fact that it gives the League One and League Two clubs revenue, because obviously it goes without saying the League Cup is just for the Football League and the Premier League. So it's exclusive to those 92 clubs. So it is good because it guarantees revenue every year for these teams, especially if they can, get a big team like Barrow did. Not only did they get the gate receipts that are on Sky Sports, so they get that as well. It's a tough one at the minute because unfortunately COVID-19 has killed a lot of lower league clubs, and therefore they've got to prioritise the league over cup competitions. So therefore they're playing the kids, which we saw last night at West Brom. I'm sure the West Brom fans would have loved to see a mixture of youth and experience, but it was majority kids there, which means no Premier League club got knocked out by any lower league opposition in this round, which I think that's what speaks volumes for itself. And not really anyone struggled. So it's a tough one, but I don't think you can ever take it away because it's just too much revenue for lower league teams.
Yep, good points. It's a strange situation when the Championship side are putting out the kids and Arsenal are playing Aubameyang. But I guess that shows you the priorities of the two different clubs, doesn't it, at the moment? So, yeah, hopefully it's a cup that they can maintain in the long run. Alex, take your Man United hat off. City signing Ronaldo. I mean, that would be pretty incredible. But I'd probably end up. There's been so many big signings this summer, but that'd be a pretty massive one if they manage to get him in.
Since Pep announced he's leaving in 2 years, now actually I see it happening. I never saw it happening before, but now I think Pep will make a short-term signing, okay, and he needs a striker, and they need to plug that gap. They've seen how strong Lukaku is now at Chelsea and their competition one-on-one. Man City will be in the market for a striker by the end of this transfer window, and if they can get Ronaldo, proven goal scorer, proven in the Premier League, incredible athlete, they'll also earn City a hell of a lot of money in terms of marketing and everything else. It makes a lot of sense for them to sign Ronaldo. So obviously, as a Man United fan, that sucks, but great stuff for City, I think.
Yeah, and when I look at, I just think back to one of the earlier podcasts we did, and one of the things you said about City when they played Spurs in that opening game was they put something like 30 crosses in, which was more crosses than anyone. Yep. You've got probably the best header of the ball maybe in history. You know, he's unbelievable in the air, and you're popping crosses in with Kevin De Bruyne and Jack Grealish, and those are the players that are picking him out. Yeah.
The top scorer at the Euros, everyone writes him off. He puts the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. So great sign of City, I think.
Could be a great one. Scott, they've announced that international players will not be able to go and play in red-listed countries for international matches in this upcoming break. Do you think that's a fair move by the Premier League? I know I don't want to get too much into the politics of it all, but it's obviously disappointing for a lot of players. From Leeds, Rafinha got his first Brazil call-up. Do you think that's fair to them, or do you think they should have found a way around that?
I couldn't give two shits about Rafinha. I care about my Premier League. No, I do. Your job, you play in England. Your job's in England. I'm sorry. If you want to, unfortunately, if you want to play for your club in these times, you go play in Brazil. Club football is priority for me in these kind of situations. I wouldn't expect any English players playing abroad if we were a red list country for them to come play for us. Unprecedented times, as we've been saying. You earn your money in this country, and the Premier League has done exactly the right thing to protect their assets and the clubs.
You've seen FIFA have written to Boris to try and get exemptions and try and roll it all on. Yeah, they just
fuck off, mate. Like honestly, like it's our Premier League. We want the stars here. We don't want them, and everyone isolate them and they come back. They can piss off.
I just think it's really insensitive to the situation as well. Still.
Yeah. It's like people are dying. What makes you feel like you can go across the world and play against San Marino or whoever?
I mean, we all know it's just money, isn't it? But it's just anyway.
All right, I'm going to cut it off there because I definitely wanted to avoid getting too deep into that one. But I just wanted to touch on it because it was a big story from this week. Brilliant. I'm going to end it there and call time on the podcast. So don't forget that you can follow us on all our social channels. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter. You can find all of those in the link to this podcast in the description. And for now, that is the end of this week's episode. Please don't forget to tune into Alex's Fantasy Football podcast. If you are into your fantasy football, he'll have much more in-depth analysis of last week and also moving forward in the fantasy football world. So please tune into that. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.